Walk to your sister's house. Figure it out yourself. I hope you freeze on the way." Those were my son's words before he slammed the door in my face. I was barefoot, in my pajamas. Outside, snow was falling with a force I had not seen in years. The cold cut my skin like thousands of invisible needles. My feet sank into the snow, and I could no longer feel my toes. The wind blew so hard I could barely keep my eyes open. The street was empty, dark, not a soul in sight. I stood there in front of the door of my own house, the house where I raised that man, where I gave him everything, where I spent every dollar I had so he could study, so he could have a better future than mine. And now he left me to die outside as if I were trash. My hands were trembling. I do not know if it was from the cold or the rage. I looked for a stone on the ground. I thought about throwing it against the window, about breaking the glass, about screaming until the neighbors came out. But my body no longer responded. The snow kept falling. I felt my legs were going to give out at any moment. Then I heard a voice, "Mrs. Olivia." I turned slowly. I could not believe what I was seeing. From the other side of the wall appeared an older woman, elegant, wearing a long, dark coat. Her face was serene but firm. Evelyn Lawson, the neighbor from next door. The woman who always waved from afar, but with whom I had never exchanged more than 2 words. She was staring at me, without pity, without surprise, as if she already knew exactly what was happening. "My husband is your son's boss, and I am the owner of the company where he works." Her words fell on me like a lightning bolt. "Come take refuge in my house. Tomorrow we will make him get on his knees begging for your forgiveness." I could not answer. My throat was closed, my lips cracked by the cold. I only nodded. Evelyn extended her hand toward me, a firm hand, secure. I took it with the little strength I had left. She helped me cross the low wall that separated our properties. When I stepped into her garden, I felt something inside me break. It was not relief, not yet. It was something deeper. It was the certainty that everything I had kept silent for years was about to come to light. Evelyn took me toward her house, a huge mansion compared to mine. The lights were on. Inside it was warm, a heat that contrasted brutally with the frozen hell I had just escaped. She sat me on a sofa next to the fireplace. She covered me with a thick blanket. She said nothing for several minutes. She just observed me while I tried to catch my breath. Finally, she spoke. "I know what he has done to you. It is not the first time I have seen him kick you out. But tonight was different. Tonight he crossed a line he should not have crossed." I looked at her without fully understanding. How could she know so much? How could she be so sure? "Your son Ethan works for my husband. He has been working there for 5 years. Arthur has him in an important position, very important. He earns more than $10,000 a month. And all that was possible because I recommended him personally." I felt the air escape from my chest. Ethan had never told me anything. He never mentioned that his job depended on the Lawsons. He never thanked anyone. He never acknowledged anything. Evelyn continued. "But he believes he got there on his own merit. He believes he is untouchable, that he can do whatever he wants without consequences. And that is why he treats you like this, because he thinks no one is watching." She got closer to me. Her look was hard but not cruel. It was the look of someone who had seen too much and would not tolerate any more. "Tomorrow, early, Ethan is going to receive a call. He is going to be summoned to my husband's office. And there he is going to understand that every dollar he has earned, every promotion he has received, every crumb of power he has was thanks to me." I still could not speak. Tears began to run down my cheeks. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of something I could not name. Maybe contained rage, maybe hope. Evelyn put her hand over mine. "I am not going to allow a man like him to keep destroying his mother, not while I have the power to stop him." That night I did not sleep. I stayed sitting in front of the fire, wrapped in that blanket, feeling my body recover its heat, but my mind remained trapped in the cold of that closed door. I thought about all the times Ethan had yelled at me, in all the times he had taken my own money, in all the times he told me I was a burden, that I was old, that I was no longer useful for anything. And now for the first time in years, someone was telling me that was not true. Someone was telling me he was going to pay. When the sun began to rise, Evelyn entered the living room with a cup of hot tea. She handed it to me without saying anything. I took it with hands that still trembled. Today, everything starts, Olivia. Today, your son is going to learn that no job, no title, no amount of money is worth more than the dignity of a mother. I nodded in silence, because for the first time in a long time, I believed someone, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that maybe, just maybe, this was not over. Everything started 3 years ago, when my husband died. His name was Robert. He was a quiet man, hardworking. We never had extra money, but we never lacked anything either. We lived with just enough for 40 years. And when he left me the house paid off and some savings, $35,000 in total. It was not a fortune, but it was enough for me to live with dignity for the rest of my days. Ethan knew it the same day of the funeral. I remember he hugged me in front of everyone. He told me not to worry, that he was going to take care of me, that I would never lack anything. I believed him. He was my son, my only son. How could I not believe him? 2 weeks later, he arrived at my house with some papers. Mom, I need you to sign this. It is to protect your money, so they do not take it with taxes. Trust me. I signed without reading, because I trusted, because he was my son. What I did not know was that those papers gave him total access to my bank account, absolute control over every dollar my husband had left for me. At first, everything seemed normal. Ethan came to visit me twice a week. He brought me groceries. He asked me how I was. I thought he was a good son, that he was keeping his word. But after 6 months, something changed. The visits became shorter, colder. He arrived in a hurry, left the bags in the kitchen, and left without even sitting down to have a coffee with me. And when I asked him for money for something, he always had an excuse. Mom, I cannot right now. I am tight this month. Mom, I already gave you some last week. You cannot spend so much. Mom, you have to learn to manage yourself better. I did not understand. That was my money, the money Robert had left me. Why did I have to ask my own son for permission to use it? One day, I dared to ask him how much was left in the account. He looked at me with annoyance. Why do you want to know that? Do you not trust me? I shut up. I felt guilty for asking. Months passed like that. I lived with the minimum. He controlled every expense, every purchase, every movement, and meanwhile, he bought expensive clothes. He changed cars. He went out to eat at restaurants every weekend. I saw him in the photos his wife uploaded to social media, smiling, toasting, living a life that seemed to have no limits, and I remained in my house, alone, asking for permission to buy my own medicine. A year ago, everything got worse. Ethan arrived one night with his wife and my granddaughter Samantha. They sat in the living room. No one smiled. Mom, we have to talk. I sat in front of them. My heart was beating fast. I knew something bad was coming. You cannot keep living alone. You are old. You can fall. You can get sick. You need someone to take care of you. I do not need anyone to take care of me, Ethan. I am fine. No, you are not fine. That is why we have decided that you are coming to live with us. I felt a strange relief. I thought maybe he really worried about me, that he wanted to have me close. But then he added something else. We are going to rent your house. That way we get some extra money. And you are going to help with the expenses of the house where you are going to live. It is only fair. There I understood everything. He did not want to take care of me. He wanted to keep my house too. And I, as always, said nothing. I packed my things. I left the house where I had lived for 40 years. And I went to live with him. But I did not go to live with him. I went to live like a servant. I woke up at 5 in the morning to make breakfast. I cleaned the whole house. I washed clothes. I ironed. I cooked the 3 meals of the day. And when I finished, I fell exhausted in a small room at the back of the house, a room without heating, with an old bed and a window that did not close well. Ethan never gave me money. He said I no longer needed it because he gave me a roof and food. But the food I prepared was bought with the money from the rent of my house. The roof under which I slept was paid with my own savings. I was not a guest. I was a prisoner. His wife spoke to me with contempt. She treated me as if I were a burden, as if my presence dirtied her home, and Samantha, my granddaughter, did not even look at me anymore. She had learned from her parents that I was worth nothing. Months passed. I faded away. I stopped talking. I stopped asking. I stopped existing. Until one night, everything exploded. Ethan arrived drunk. He entered screaming, saying he had a bad day at work, that his boss had pressured him, that everyone mistreated him. I was in the kitchen washing dishes. He came in and pushed me. "You are to blame. Everything is your fault. I have to support a useless old woman who is good for nothing." I stayed quiet, as always. But that night he did not stop. He kept screaming. He kept insulting me. And when I tried to leave the kitchen, he blocked my path. "Where do you think you are going?" "You stay here until I say so." His wife appeared at the door, but she did not defend me. She only crossed her arms and looked the other way. Ethan grabbed me by the arm with force. He dragged me toward the front door. I tried to resist, but he was stronger. He opened the door with a slam. Outside it was snowing. "Get out. Get out right now. I do not want to see you in my house anymore." "Ethan, please. It is freezing. I have no shoes." "I do not care. Walk to your sister's house. Figure it out yourself. I hope you freeze on the way." And he pushed me outside. The door closed behind me with a dry thud. I heard the lock. I heard his steps walking away. And I stayed there, barefoot, shivering, praying for someone to open that door. But no one did. I knocked on the door. I screamed his name. I begged. Nothing. The snow fell on me. The wind went through me. My feet sank into the ice. I no longer felt my hands. And then I thought I was going to die there, that I was going to die alone, abandoned by the son to whom I had given everything. It was at that moment when I heard Evelyn's voice, and everything changed. The cold was different from anything I had felt before. It was not just temperature, it was pure pain. It was the certainty that my body was minutes away from giving up. My feet were no longer mine. I saw them sink into the snow, but I did not feel it. It was as if they had ceased to exist, as if someone had cut them off and I was walking on frozen stumps. My hands burned, a frozen burning that went up my arms and settled in my chest. I tried to rub them against my pajamas, but the fabric was soaked. Every movement was useless. The wind blew with such force that it was hard to remain standing. It pushed me backward, sideways, as if nature itself wanted to knock me down, and I remained in front of that closed door, my son's door, the door of the house that was supposed to be my refuge. I knocked again, with my fist, with my open palm, with what I had left of strength. "Ethan, please, open up. I am going to die out here." Silence. I knew he was on the other side. I knew he was listening to me, but he did not care. Maybe he even wanted it to happen. Maybe that was exactly what he was looking for, that I would freeze, that I would disappear, that I would stop being a problem for him. I looked toward the street. It was completely empty. There were no cars. There were no lights on in the other houses. It was late, too late. No one was going to come out to help me. I thought about my sister. She lived 4 miles from there, 4 miles barefoot, in pajamas, under the snow. It was impossible. I was not going to make it. I knew it. But I could not stay there standing waiting for death either. So I took a step, then another. Every step was torture. The snow got between my toes. It cut the soles of my feet. I felt the skin open. I felt something wet that was not just snow. It was blood. I advanced 10 feet, 12, 15, and then my legs gave way. I fell on my knees on the ice. The impact was brutal. A sharp pain went through my kneecaps. I screamed, but my voice was lost in the wind. I tried to get up. I could not. My arms trembled too much. My muscles did not respond. I stayed there, on my knees, with my hands resting on the snow, breathing with difficulty, feeling how the cold entered deeper, how it settled in my bones. I looked up toward the living room window. The light was on. I saw Ethan's shadow moving inside, calm, comfortable, warm, and me outside, dying. Something inside me broke at that moment. It was not my body. It was something worse. It was the image I had of my son, the image of the boy I had raised, of the man I thought he was. That image shattered into pieces, and in its place remained the truth, the raw and terrible truth that my own son hated me, that he wished for my death, that I was not his mother. I was his enemy. I looked for a stone on the ground. My fingers were so rigid I could barely close my hand, but I managed to grab one. It was small, but enough to break the glass. I thought about throwing it, about making him come out, about forcing him to look at me, to see what he had done to me. I raised my arm, I aimed at the window, but I did not throw it, because at that moment I heard the voice. Olivia. I turned slowly. Every movement was a monumental effort. My neck was so tense I felt something was going to snap. And I saw her, Evelyn Lawson, standing next to the wall, with her long coat, with her firm look, as if she had been waiting for that moment all night. She did not seem surprised. She did not seem scared. She seemed prepared. My husband is your son's boss, and I am the owner of the company where he works. Those words fell on me like a bucket of hot water in the middle of the storm. Come take refuge in my house. Tomorrow we will make him get on his knees begging for your forgiveness. I wanted to answer. I wanted to say something, but my mouth did not work. My lips were split. My tongue was dry. I only managed to make a choked sound. Evelyn extended her hand toward me, a firm hand, without gloves, as if the cold did not affect her. I dropped the stone. I let it fall on the snow. And with the last remnant of strength I had left, I raised my hand and took hers. She pulled me with a force I did not expect. She helped me stand up. She held me when my legs failed again. Let's go. You cannot stay here a second longer. She guided me toward the low wall that separated the two properties. It was barely 2 feet high. In normal circumstances, I would have jumped it without a problem, but now it was like climbing a mountain. Evelyn helped me cross it. She held me by the waist. She pushed me carefully, and when my feet touched the other side, I felt I had crossed more than a wall. I had crossed into another world. Her garden was clean, cared for. The snow did not accumulate because they had heating under the ground. My feet left red stains on the white surface. Evelyn said nothing. She just took me toward the entrance of her house. She opened the door, and the heat that came from inside was like a hug. I entered stumbling. My legs barely held me. Evelyn closed the door behind us, and at that instant, the outside world ceased to exist. I no longer heard the wind. I no longer felt the cutting cold. There was only silence, and heat, and light. Evelyn took me to a huge sofa in front of a lit fireplace. She sat me down carefully. She took off my soaked pajamas and covered me with a blanket so thick it seemed to weigh 20 pounds. Do not speak yet. First you have to recover your warmth. I nodded. My teeth chattered so hard I thought they were going to break. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. I could not stop it. Evelyn disappeared for a moment. She returned with a cup of hot tea. She put it between my hands. I tried to hold it, but I was trembling too much. She had to help me bring it to my lips. The first sip burned my tongue, but I did not care. I needed that heat inside me. I needed to feel that I was still alive. I drank slowly, sip after sip, feeling how the hot liquid went down my throat and expanded through my chest. Evelyn sat in front of me. She did not stop observing me, but not with pity, with something different, with determination. I know what he has done to you. It is not the first time I have seen him kick you out. I looked at her without understanding. How could she know? How could she have seen something that I myself had hidden for so long? Your son Ethan works for my husband. He has been working there for 5 years, and everything he has, everything he is, he owes to me. The words hit me harder than the wind outside. Ethan had never told me anything. He never mentioned the Lawsons. He never thanked anyone. He never acknowledged that someone else had helped him. And now that woman was in front of me telling me she had the power to destroy him. Tomorrow early, he is going to receive a call. He is going to be summoned to my husband's office. And there he is going to understand who has control. I still could not speak. Tears began to fall. I could not stop them. I did not want to stop them. Because for the first time in 3 years, someone was defending me. Someone was telling me I did not deserve this, and that certainty was warmer than any fireplace. I spent the whole night awake, Not because I was not sleepy, but because every time I closed my eyes, I felt the cold again. I saw that closed door again. I heard Ethan's voice again telling me he hoped I would freeze. Evelyn had given me clean clothes, soft pajama pants, a thick shirt, wool socks. Everything was too big for me, but I did not care. For the first time in months, I felt someone was treating me with dignity. I stayed sitting in front of the fireplace until the sun began to rise. The flames burned slowly. The heat wrapped around me. But my mind did not rest. I thought about everything. In the 3 years I had lost. In the money Ethan had taken from me. In the house he had snatched from me. In the life he had stolen from me. And I thought about Evelyn. About how she had appeared just at the exact moment, as if she had been waiting, as if she had known something like this was going to happen. When I heard steps on the stairs, I looked up. Evelyn was coming down slowly. She wore an impeccable suit, light gray, elegant. Her hair was tied back, her face rested, as if she had not spent the night rescuing a woman from death. "Good morning, Olivia. How do you feel? Better, thanks to you." She smiled slightly. She sat in front of me in a leather armchair. "Call me Evelyn. There is no need for formalities between us." I nodded. I was not used to that, to someone speaking to me as if we were equals. Evelyn poured 2 cups of coffee from a carafe that was on the table. She passed me one. The aroma was strong, comforting. "I want to tell you something your son never told you." I took the cup with both hands. They still trembled a little. 5 years ago, Ethan came to our company looking for work. He had good references, he had studied administration, he seemed capable, but he was not exceptional. There were other better candidates. Evelyn took a sip of coffee. Her eyes did not leave mine. But one day during a selection meeting, my husband Arthur mentioned that one of the candidates was the son of a woman named Olivia, and I stopped dead. Why? Because I knew you, even if you do not remember me. I looked at her confused. I did not remember having seen her before moving to that house. 20 years ago, I worked in a hospital. I was a nurse. I was newly married to Arthur. He was still building his company. We had no money. We lived tight. Evelyn left her cup on the table. She leaned a little forward. One day I got sick. I had a serious infection. I needed urgent surgery. But we had no health insurance. We had no way to pay. The doctors told me I had to wait, to look for some government aid program. She paused. Her look became more intense. But you were there, in the hospital, not as a patient. You were visiting a friend, and you saw me sitting in the waiting room, crying, desperate. I tried to remember, but my memory was blurry. So many years had passed. You approached me. You asked me what was wrong. I told you, and you, without thinking twice, took out your checkbook and paid for half the surgery, $5,000. I felt the air leaving my chest. I told you I could not accept it, that I did not know you, that I had no way to pay you back, and you told me something I never forgot. Evelyn repeated my words as if she had recorded them in her memory. I do not need you to pay me back. I only need you to help someone else when you have the opportunity. That is how the world works when it works well. Tears began to fall down my cheeks. I did not remember that moment. I did not remember that woman, but I remembered doing things like that. I remembered helping people without expecting anything in return. That surgery saved my life, Olivia. And thanks to that, Arthur and I were able to move forward. The company grew. We did well, very well. And I never forgot you. Evelyn stood up. She walked toward the window. She looked outside, toward Ethan's house. So when I knew your son was looking for a job, I personally asked Arthur to hire him, not because he deserved it, but because you had saved my life. I could not speak. I just cried in silence. We gave him an important position. We paid him well, $10,500 a month. We promoted him twice in 5 years, all thanks to you. Evelyn turned toward me. But he never knew that. We never told him his job depended on you. We wanted him to believe he had achieved it on his own merit. We thought that would make him more humble, more grateful. She returned to the armchair. She sat in front of me. We were wrong. He did not become humble. He became arrogant, cruel. And I saw him. I saw him treat you badly. I saw him yell at you. I saw him kick you out of his house 6 months ago when you argued about money. You saw that I saw everything. Olivia, our houses are next to each other. The windows face the same garden. I have seen things that made my blood boil. But I waited. I waited because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to know how far he was capable of going, and last night he went too far. Evelyn took my hand. She squeezed it firmly. Now is the time to act. Arthur already knows everything. I told him what happened last night, and he is furious. Not only because Ethan did that to you, but because a man like that cannot work in our company. What are you going to do? Today at 9 in the morning, Ethan is going to receive a call. He is going to be summoned to the main office. Arthur is going to tell him the truth. He is going to tell him that everything he has he owes to his mother, and he is going to give him an ultimatum. What kind of ultimatum? Either he asks for your forgiveness on his knees and returns every dollar he stole from you, or he loses his job, he loses his salary, he loses his reputation, he loses everything. I felt a knot in my throat. I did not know if it was fear or relief. But I need you to tell me something. Olivia, do you want this to happen? Do you want your son to pay for what he did to you? I stayed in silence because I did not know the answer. He was my son, even after everything. Even after the cold, even after the closed door, he was still my son. Evelyn waited. She did not pressure me. She just waited. Finally, I spoke. I want him to know the truth. I want him to know that everything he has, he did not earn alone. I want him to understand that he used me, that he destroyed me, that he almost killed me. Evelyn nodded. Then that is what is going to happen. She stood up. She walked toward the phone that was on a table next to the entrance. She dialed a number. She waited. Arthur? Yes. She agrees. Proceed. She hung up. She turned toward me. It is already in motion. At 9, your son is going to receive the call. At 10, he is going to be in front of Arthur. And at 11, his world is going to collapse. I stayed sitting on that sofa, feeling how something inside me changed. I was no longer just a victim. I was no longer just an abandoned mother. Now, I was someone who had power, someone who had an ally, someone who was going to see justice. Evelyn sat next to me. But this does not end there. Olivia, this is just starting, because I have the feeling that your son hides many more things, and we are going to discover them all. How I am going to give you a job at the company, an administrative position. You are going to have access to files, to records, to information. And you are going to be able to investigate what else Ethan has been doing with your money. Why would you do that for me? Because 20 years ago, you saved me without expecting anything in return. And now it is my turn to save you. Tears fell again, but this time they were not of sadness. They were of something I had not felt in years: hope. At 9:15 in the morning, Ethan's phone rang. I was not there to see it, but Evelyn told me later how it had been. He was eating breakfast calmly, coffee, toast, as if nothing had happened the night before, as if he had not left his mother dying in the snow. When he saw Arthur Lawson's name on the screen, he went pale. His wife asked him what was wrong. He did not answer. He just answered the call. Ethan, I need you to come to the office in 30 minutes. It is urgent. That was all. Arthur hung up without giving him time to ask. Ethan arrived at the company at 5 to 10. Evelyn told me she had never seen him so nervous. He was sweating. He touched his shirt collar. He walked fast down the hallway as if he wanted to get it over with as soon as possible. He entered Arthur's office, and there he was, sitting behind his huge desk, with his hands crossed, his look hard, without smiling. Sit down. Ethan sat down. He tried to maintain his composure. He tried to appear secure, but Evelyn told me you could see the fear in his eyes. Arthur did not waste time. I want you to tell me something, Ethan. Where was your mother last night? The question took him by surprise. He blinked several times. He looked for an answer. She is. At home. Resting. Do not lie to me. Ethan swallowed saliva. His hands moved restlessly on his legs. She had a problem. She went out. But she is fine now. A problem. She went out. Ethan, your mother was about to freeze to death in the street because you kicked her out of your house in pajamas, in the middle of a snowstorm. The silence that followed was dense, heavy. Ethan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Arthur leaned forward. And the worst part is not just that. The worst part is that you work here believing you arrived by your own effort, believing you deserve it, believing you are someone important. Ethan tried to speak. Mr. Lawson, Shut up. I am not finished yet. Arthur opened a folder that was on his desk. He took out some papers. Do you know who recommended we hire you 5 years ago? Do you know who insisted we give you a chance when there were better candidates than you? Ethan shook his head. Panic was reflected on his face. My wife, Evelyn Lawson, the owner of this company. Ethan said nothing. He just looked at the papers without understanding. And do you know why my wife did that? Because 20 years ago your mother saved her life. She paid for a surgery she could not afford. $5,000, without knowing her, without expecting anything in return. The words fell on Ethan like stones. So everything you have, every dollar you have earned, every promotion you have received, you owe to your mother, not to yourself, to her. Ethan began to tremble, not from cold, from rage, from shame, from fear. Arthur closed the folder. He leaned back in his chair. Now I am going to give you an option. Just one. You are going to go to your house. You are going to bring your mother back. You are going to ask for forgiveness on your knees. You are going to return every dollar you stole from her. And you are going to prove to me that you are capable of being a decent man. Ethan tried to protest. Sir, you do not understand. My mother is complicated. I am not interested in your version. I am interested in the truth. And the truth is you almost killed her last night. If my wife had not been there, your mother would be dead, and you would be in jail. The fear in Ethan's eyes transformed into pure panic. What do I have to do? What I told you. Bring her back. Return her money. Ask for forgiveness, and pray that she forgives you. Because if she does not, your career ends here, and I am going to personally ensure that no company in this city hires you. Ethan nodded like an automaton. He stood up. He left the office walking as if he were in a trance. Evelyn was waiting for him in the hallway. He saw her. He tried to say something, but she only looked at him with contempt. Your mother is in my house, recovering. When you are ready to do the right thing, you can go get her. Ethan left the building. He got into his car, and he stayed there sitting for 10 minutes, without moving, without starting the engine, just looking at the steering wheel. But what happened next, no one expected. That same afternoon, Ethan returned to the company. But he did not go to Arthur's office. He went straight to the Human Resources Department. He spoke with the head of the area. He told a completely different version of the facts. My mother has mental problems. She is confused. She says things that are not true. Last night she left the house without telling me. I looked for her all night. I was desperate. The woman listened to him. She took notes. And now the Lawsons have her in their house. I do not know what they told her, but she is vulnerable. She is being manipulated. Ethan kept talking, building his lie calmly, with precision. I just want to protect her. But they are using my mother to attack me. I do not know why. Maybe because they know I am competing for an important promotion. The head of Human Resources asked him if he had proof of what he was saying. Ethan took out his phone. He showed messages, calls, fake medical records he had obtained somehow. My mother was hospitalized 2 years ago for episodes of confusion. Here is the report. It was a lie. Everything was a lie. But he presented it with such security that the woman began to doubt. I am going to investigate this. Give me a few days. Ethan nodded. He left there with a smile no one saw. When Evelyn found out what he had done, her face went rigid. He is playing dirty. He is trying to flip the situation, play the victim. I was sitting in front of her, feeling how the relief I had felt in the morning turned into fear again. What is going to happen now? Evelyn did not answer immediately. She stayed looking out the window, thinking. Finally she spoke. He thinks he can manipulate the narrative. He thinks he can make you look crazy. He thinks he can save himself with lies. She turned toward me. But what he does not know is that I did not get to where I am by being naive. I know men like him, and I know how to destroy them. How Evelyn sat next to me. You are going to work at the company, like I told you, but not in just any position. You are going to work in the internal audit area. You are going to have access to all financial records, to all contracts, to everything Ethan has signed in the last 5 years. And what am I going to look for? Everything. Every suspicious movement, every inflated expense, every fake invoice, every account that does not add up, because I am sure your son not only stole from you, he is also stealing from the company. I felt a shiver. Do you think he would do that? Evelyn looked me straight in the eyes. Olivia, a man capable of leaving his mother to die in the snow is capable of anything. And at that moment, something changed in me. I no longer felt fear. I felt determination. I am going to find everything he is hiding. Everything. Evelyn smiled. But it was not a warm smile. It was a war smile. Good. Because tomorrow you start working, and tomorrow the real investigation begins. That night, while I was lying in the room Evelyn had given me, I thought about Ethan, about how he had played his card, about how he had tried to make me look crazy, but he did not know something. I was no longer the broken woman he had left to die outside. I was another person now. A person who had allies, a person who had power, a person who was going to discover every secret he kept. And when I did, there would be no lie that could save him. On Monday morning, I entered the company for the first time in my life, not as a visitor, not as someone's mother, but as an employee. Evelyn had gotten me a position in the internal audit department. My official job was to review invoices, verify expenses, make sure everything was in order, a discreet job, almost invisible. But we both knew what my real mission was. They gave me a small office on the 3rd floor, a computer, access to the company's digital files, and most importantly, access to the records of the last 5 years. The manager of the department was named Tina Ross. She was a woman of about 50, serious, efficient. She explained my duties in 10 minutes. You are going to review all the invoices that pass through the administration area. If something does not add up, you report it to me. Simple. I nodded. I took notes. I tried to appear just as an older woman who needed a quiet job. But when Tina left my office, I sat in front of that computer and knew it was not going to be simple. Because I was not there to review just any invoice. I was there to review my son's. I typed his name in the system search. Ethan. Hundreds of records appeared, expense reports, reimbursement requests, supplier invoices, signed contracts, everything he had touched in 5 years. I took a deep breath, and I began to review. The first months seemed normal. Transport expenses, business meals, small invoices, nothing out of the ordinary. But as I advanced in time, I began to notice something strange. The expenses increased, a lot, and fast. In his first year, Ethan had reported expenses for $3,000, normal for someone in his position. But in the second year, that figure rose to $8,000. In the third year, $15,000. And in the last year, $25,000 in reported expenses. I opened the details. Business meals at expensive restaurants, hotels, trips, conferences, everything justified with invoices that seemed legitimate. But something did not fit. I took one of the invoices. It was from a restaurant called The Manor. It said Ethan had taken 3 clients to dinner, total $1,200. The company had reimbursed everything. I looked for more invoices from the same place. There were 7 in total, all for similar amounts, all in the same year. I took note of the dates, and then I did something Ethan never imagined I would do. I called the restaurant. Good morning, this is Olivia. I work in internal audit at Lawson Company, and I am verifying some invoices. Could you confirm if you issued an invoice on March 15th of last year for $1,200? The receptionist asked me to wait. I heard the sound of a keyboard, then she returned to the line. I have no record of that invoice in our system. Are you sure? Completely. Our system saves everything, and that day there was no bill of that amount. Thank you. I hung up. I felt something cold run down my back. Ethan had forged that invoice. I reviewed the other 6. I called the restaurant again. None were real. That meant my son had stolen more than $8,000 just with fake invoices from a restaurant. How much more would he have stolen in total? I kept reviewing. Hotels. I called 2 of them. The reservations did not exist. The invoices were fake. Conferences. I looked for the events on the internet. Some had not even taken place. Others, yes, but Ethan had never attended. Every discovery was worse than the previous one. My son had not only stolen from me, he was stealing from the company that had hired him because of me. I printed everything, every fake invoice, every suspicious record, every movement that did not add up. When I finished, I had a stack of papers 2 inches high, and that was just the beginning. That afternoon, I went to Evelyn's office. She was reviewing some contracts. When she saw me enter with the folder, she dropped everything. "Did you find something?" I showed her the papers. I explained them one by one. Every fake invoice, every non-existent hotel, every invented conference. Evelyn said nothing for several minutes. She just read, reviewed, calculated. Finally, she spoke. "This is enough to fire him and to sue him." I nodded. But I did not feel relief. I felt something worse. I felt shame, because that man was my son, and I had raised him, and I did not know at what moment he had become this. Evelyn noticed my expression. "It is not your fault, Olivia. He chose this path, not you." But there was something else, something I needed to know. "Evelyn, if he is stealing so much from the company, where is he putting that money?" She looked at me intently. "That is the right question. Because if he is forging invoices for $25,000 a year, plus what he stole from you, we are talking about more than $100,000 in total." The figure hit me like a fist in the stomach. "Where is that money?" Evelyn closed the folder. "That is what we are going to find out. But I need you to keep investigating. I need you to review his bank accounts, his properties, anything that is in his name." "How am I going to do that?" Evelyn smiled, but it was a cold smile. "Because your son made a mistake. When he made you sign those papers to access your account, he put your name as co-owner on several of his accounts, probably to move money without raising suspicions. That means you have legal right to request information about those accounts." "Really, really. And tomorrow, we are going to go to the bank. And we are going to ask for all the movements of the last 3 years. That night I could not sleep again, but this time it was not from fear. It was from rage, from indignation, from the certainty that my son had used me in a way I had not even imagined. He had robbed me, he had forged my signature, he had used my name to commit fraud, and he had probably done much more. The next day, Evelyn and I went to the bank. It was a large branch, cold, with shiny floors and employees who spoke in low voices. A young man attended us. We explained what we needed. He reviewed the documents. He confirmed that I was a co-owner of 3 accounts in Ethan's name, and he handed us the movements of the last 3 years. We left the bank with a folder full of papers. We got into Evelyn's car, and there in the parking lot we began to review. What we found was devastating. Ethan had 3 accounts, an official one where the company deposited his salary, and 2 secret ones. In one of those secret accounts there were constant deposits, small ones, of $500, $1,000, $2,000, every 2 or 3 weeks. I summed up the amounts. In 3 years, that account had received more than $90,000. Where did that money come from? I reviewed the references of the deposits. Some said reimbursement. Others said service payment. Others had no description. But they were all lies, because I already knew those reimbursements were for fake invoices. Evelyn pointed to the second secret account. "Look at this. That account had larger movements, transfers of $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and all came from my account, from the account where the savings Robert had left me were. Ethan had been transferring my money to that account for 2 years, without me knowing, without me authorizing anything. I felt I was going to vomit. He stole everything from me." Evelyn put her hand on my shoulder. "Yes, but now we have the proof. And with this, not only are we going to fire him, we are going to destroy him." I looked at those papers, those numbers, those transfers, and something inside me hardened. It was no longer just rage. It was cold determination, calculated. What is next? Evelyn started the car. Now we are going to investigate what he spent all that money on. Because a man who steals $100,000 does not keep it under the mattress. He invests it, he hides it, or he spends it on something big. How are we going to know on what Evelyn looked at me sideways? Because tomorrow you are going to enter his house while he is at work, and you are going to look for everything you can find, documents, contracts, invoices, whatever. And if he discovers me, he is not going to discover you, because I'm going to make sure he is busy all day in an endless meeting. I nodded. I knew it was risky. I knew if Ethan found me there, things could get worse. But I did not care anymore, because my son had taken everything from me, my money, my house, my dignity, my life, and now I was going to take everything from him. On Tuesday at 9 a.m, Ethan received a call from Arthur. He was summoned to an urgent meeting that would last all day. A general audit of the department. All managers had to be present. Evelyn sent me a message. He already left. You have 3 hours. Maximum 4. I took the keys she had given me. They were a copy of the keys to my house. The house Ethan had taken from me and now rented. The house where I had lived for 40 years. I drove slowly. My heart beat so fast I felt it was going to explode. It was not fear. It was something else. It was the feeling of being about to discover something that had no turning back. I arrived at the house. I parked 2 blocks away. I walked with my head down. No one saw me. I opened the front door. The smell hit me immediately. It was not the smell of my house. It was another. A smell of expensive perfume, of new furniture, of a life I did not recognize. I closed the door behind me. The silence was total. I walked through the living room. Everything had changed. The furniture Robert and I had bought was no longer there. Now there was a leather sofa, a huge television, modern paintings on the walls. Ethan had erased every trace of us. I went up the stairs. I went straight to his room. The door was closed. I opened it slowly. Inside was a king-size bed, a huge closet, everything impeccable. I searched in the drawers, clothes, expensive watches, nothing important. Then I went to the study, a small room at the end of the hall. There was his desk, his computer, his files. I opened the first drawer. Invoices, receipts, company papers, nothing I had not seen already. I opened the second drawer. More papers, contracts, account statements. And then I found something. A manila envelope. Thick, closed with adhesive tape. I opened it carefully. Inside were documents. Many documents. The first was a purchase contract. A property. An apartment downtown. Bought a year ago. Price. $120,000. I felt the air escaping me. Ethan had bought an apartment I did not know, an apartment that cost more than he could pay with his salary. I kept reviewing. There were photos of the inside of the apartment. It was luxurious, modern, with a view of the city. And in one of the photos there was something that froze my blood. A woman, young, about 30 years old, blonde, smiling, sitting on the sofa of that apartment. It was not his wife. I turned the photo over. There was something written on the back. For my love, thank you for this home. Megan. Megan. Ethan had another woman, and he had bought her an apartment. With my money. My hands were trembling. I kept reviewing the envelope. There were more photos of the two of them together, in restaurants, in trips, at the beach. And then I found something worse. A birth certificate. Of a child. Name, Danny. Age, 2 years. Father, Ethan. Mother, Megan. My son had another son, a secret son, with another woman, and no one knew. Not his wife, not my granddaughter Samantha. No one. I sat on the floor. I could not breathe. I could not think. Ethan had used my money to buy an apartment for his mistress, to support his secret son, to build a parallel life while I slept in a frozen room and worked as a servant in his house. I took photos of everything, of the contract, of the images, of the birth certificate. I saved everything on my phone, and I kept searching. In the third drawer, I found more contracts, investments, company shares, offshore accounts. Ethan had invested more than $200,000 in the last 3 years, $200,000 that he could not have earned just with his salary. I did the math in my head. My money, $35,000. The fake invoices from the company, $90,000. The investments in the apartment, more than $300,000 in total. Almost $200,000 were missing. Where had he gotten so much money? I kept reviewing. And then I found a document that explained everything. It was a contract with a shell company, a company that did not really exist, and that company had paid Ethan $150,000 in commissions for consulting services, but those services had never been provided. Ethan had created fake invoices, fake contracts, fake reports, everything to justify those payments. And the company that supposedly had paid was registered in someone else's name, a certain Adam Miller. I searched that name on the internet. I found nothing. It did not exist. It was a fake name. But there was an address, a registration address for the shell company, and that address was his mother-in-law's house, his wife's mother. Ethan was not acting alone. His wife knew, his mother-in-law too. Everyone was involved. Everyone had robbed me. I took photos of everything. Every document, every contract, every fake invoice. And when I finished, I put everything back exactly as it was. I closed the drawers. I turned off the lights. I left the house. I walked back to the car. I got in. I closed the door. And then the tears began to fall. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of helplessness, of disgust. My son was not just a thief. He was a liar, a traitor, a man who had built an empire of lies on my back. And his wife, the woman I had received into my family, the woman I had treated like a daughter, she had also betrayed me. I drove back to Evelyn's house. I entered without knocking. She was in the living room waiting for me. "Did you find something?" I showed her everything, the photos, the documents, the birth certificate, the fake contracts, the shell company. Evelyn reviewed every image. Her face got harder with every discovery. "This is worse than I thought, much worse." I could not speak. I just cried in silence. Evelyn left the phone on the table. "Your son not only stole from you, he stole from the company. He committed tax fraud. He created a fake identity. He laundered money. And he has a secret family that he supports with stolen funds." I nodded. "And his wife knows. His mother-in-law, too. Everyone is involved." Evelyn stood thinking. Then she took her phone and dialed a number. "Arthur, I need you to come home now. It is urgent." She hung up. She looked at me. "This is no longer just a labor issue. This is criminal, and we are going to need lawyers, and probably the police." I felt a shiver. "The police?" Evelyn nodded. "Olivia, your son committed fraud, document forgery, tax evasion, money laundering. This is not fixed with a firing. This is fixed with a lawsuit, and possibly with jail." The word jail echoed in my head like an echo. He was my son, even after everything, even after knowing what he had done. He was still my son, but I could no longer protect him. I could no longer pretend I did not know. I could no longer let him keep destroying lives. Evelyn put her hand on mine. "I know it is hard. I know he is your son. But this has to end, not just for you, but for all the people he is going to keep hurting if we do not stop him." I took a deep breath. I wiped my tears. "What do I have to do?" Evelyn smiled, but it was not a smile of joy. It was a war smile. "First, we are going to gather all the evidence. Then we are going to present it to a lawyer, and then we are going to confront your son. But not alone, not in private, but in front of the whole company, in front of his wife, in front of everyone who believed in him. And if he denies everything," Evelyn shook her head, "he will not be able to deny anything, because we have documents, we have photos, we have bank records, we have everything." That afternoon, Arthur arrived at the house. Evelyn showed him everything I had found. He reviewed every document with a face of disbelief. When he finished, he only said one thing: "Tomorrow, we fire him." and the day after tomorrow we file the lawsuit." I nodded, but there was something else, something I needed to know. "And my granddaughter, does Samantha know anything about this?" Evelyn shook her head. "I do not think so. She is young, probably has no idea about anything. But we are going to find out." That night, lying in the bed of the room Evelyn had given me, I thought about Samantha, about how I had seen her grow, about how I had taken care of her when she was a baby, and I thought about how Ethan was using her, how he had used me, how he used everyone, and I knew I had to protect her, even if that meant destroying her father, because that is what mothers do. They protect, even when it hurts, even when it means losing everything. The next day, while I was reviewing more documents in my office, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but something told me I should do it. "Hello, Grandma." It was Samantha, my granddaughter. Her voice sounded broken, scared. "Samantha, are you okay? I need to see you. Please, do not tell Dad. Do not tell anyone. Just come." She gave me an address, a coffee shop on the other side of town. She hung up before I could ask more. I sent a message to Evelyn explaining. She answered me immediately. "Go, but be careful, and record everything she tells you." I drove to the coffee shop. It was a small place, quiet. Samantha was sitting at a table in the back. When she saw me enter, she stood up. She had red eyes. She had been crying. I approached. She hugged me, and she began to cry again. "Grandma, I do not know what to do. I do not know who to talk to. Calm down. I am here. Tell me what is wrong." We sat down. She took a deep breath. She wiped her tears with a napkin. "Dad asked me to sign some papers 2 weeks ago. He told me it was for a savings fund, that he was going to invest money for my future, for when I entered college." I nodded. I knew where this was going, and I signed, without reading, because I trusted him, because he is my dad. Samantha took some documents out of her backpack. She put them on the table. They were wrinkled, stained with tears. But yesterday I found copies of those papers on his desk, and I read them. And they are not for a savings fund, Grandma. They are contracts. Contracts where I appear as a partner of a company I do not know. I took the documents. I reviewed them. My blood froze. It was the shell company. The same company Ethan had used to launder money. And now Samantha was registered as a partner, with 20% of the shares. That meant if someone investigated that company, Samantha would appear as an accomplice. As part of the fraud, Ethan was using his own daughter to hide his crimes. I felt I was going to explode with rage, but I held back. Samantha needed me calm. "Did you tell your dad anything?" She shook her head. "I tried to talk to him last night, but when I asked him about the company, he got furious. He yelled at me. He told me I understood nothing, to stop sticking my nose where it did not belong." Her eyes filled with tears again, and then Mom came in. And instead of defending me, she told me to listen to Dad, to stop asking questions, to trust them. I took her hand. "Samantha, listen to me well. Your dad is using you. He put you as a partner of that company, so if something goes wrong, you fall too. So you appear guilty of things you did not do." She looked at me with horror. "Why would he do that? Because your dad has been stealing for years. He stole from me. He stole from the company where he works, and now he is involving you." Samantha began to tremble. "It cannot be. He is my dad. He would not do that." I took out my phone. I showed her the photos I had taken, the apartment, the woman, the birth certificate of the child. Samantha looked at the images. Her face changed. From confusion to shock, from shock to devastation. Dad has another son. Yes, a 2-year-old boy, with another woman. He bought her an apartment, and everything was paid with stolen money. Samantha dropped the phone on the table. She covered her face with her hands. She cried without being able to contain herself. The people in the coffee shop looked at us, but I did not care. I let her cry. I let her let it all out. When she finally calmed down, she looked at me with red and swollen eyes. "What am I going to do, Grandma?" "You are going to come with me. You are going to talk to the company's lawyers, and we are going to get your name out of that shell company before it is too late." And if Dad gets mad, I took her face between my hands. Your dad no longer has power over you, nor over me, nor over anyone, because in 2 days everyone is going to know what he has done, and he is going to pay for every lie, for every theft, for every life he destroyed. Samantha nodded. She wiped her tears, and for the first time in that conversation, I saw something different in her eyes. Determination. That afternoon, I took Samantha to Evelyn's house. I told her everything my granddaughter had told me. Evelyn called her lawyer immediately. The lawyer arrived an hour later. A serious man, in a dark suit, with a folder full of papers. Samantha explained everything. She showed him the contracts she had signed. The lawyer reviewed them with attention. This is serious. Your father involved you in a money laundering scheme. If this goes to trial, you could be accused as an accomplice. Samantha paled. But I knew nothing. I only signed what he asked me. The lawyer nodded. I know. And that is what we are going to prove. But I need you to do something. I need you to write a statement, explaining exactly how your father convinced you to sign, what he told you, how he manipulated you. Samantha looked at Evelyn. Then she looked at me. Is that going to help? It is going to help you, and it is going to help destroy your father's case. Samantha took a deep breath. She nodded. I will do it. That night, while Samantha wrote her statement in another room, Evelyn and I stayed in the living room. She was reviewing all the documents we had gathered. We have enough, more than enough. Fraud, forgery, money laundering, technical bigamy because he has 2 families, and now exploitation of a minor by involving Samantha. I nodded, but something inside me still hurt. Evelyn noticed. I know what you are thinking. What? That he is still your son. That maybe there is a part of you that wants to forgive him. I did not answer, because she was right. Evelyn approached. She sat next to me. Olivia, forgiving does not mean forgetting. It does not mean letting him keep hurting people. You can forgive him in your heart if you want, but that does not change that he has to pay for what he did. I know. And think about Samantha. If we do not stop him now, he is going to keep using her. He is going to ruin her life, like he ruined yours. Those words hit me with force, because they were true. If I did not act, Samantha was going to end up like me, destroyed, used, discarded, and I was not going to allow that to happen. You are right. We are going to do what has to be done. Evelyn smiled. Good. Because tomorrow is going to be a very long day. The next day, the lawyer filed a formal complaint with the authorities. Corporate fraud, document forgery, money laundering. Everything backed by irrefutable proof. He also filed a request to remove Samantha's name from the shell company, and a protection order so Ethan could not approach her. Everything was in motion, but something was still missing, something I needed to do. I needed to talk to Ethan's wife, to Samantha's mother, to the woman who had betrayed me. Evelyn did not agree. It is dangerous. She can warn Ethan. She can destroy evidence. She is not going to do that, because I am going to take Samantha with me. And when she sees what her husband did to his own daughter, she is going to have to choose. Either she is with him or she is with her daughter. Evelyn thought about it. Finally, she nodded. All right, but take your phone recording. And if something goes wrong, get out of there immediately. That afternoon, Samantha and I went to the house that had been mine, the house that now hurt me to look at. We rang the doorbell. Ethan's wife opened. When she saw me, her face hardened. What are you doing here? I came to talk, and I brought Samantha. She looked at her daughter. She noticed her red eyes, her broken expression. Samantha, come in. You don't. But Samantha spoke. If Grandma doesn't come in, neither do I. Her mother hesitated. Finally, she stepped aside. We entered. We sat in the living room, the same living room where I had cleaned, where I had cooked, where I had served as a slave. I spoke without beating around the bush. Your husband has another woman, another son. He bought them an apartment for $120,000 with stolen money. She looked at me with hatred. You are lying. Samantha took out her phone. She showed her the photos, the apartment, the woman, the child, the birth certificate. Her mother looked at the images. Her face changed, from rage to shock, from shock to pain. It cannot be. And there is more. Ethan involved Samantha in fraud. He made her sign papers for a fake company. If the police investigate, she could go to jail. Because of your husband. The woman looked at her daughter. Is that true? Samantha nodded. Dad made me sign. He told me it was for my future. But it was a lie. It was to hide his stolen money. Her mother collapsed. She began to cry. And at that moment, I knew she had known nothing. That Ethan had also deceived her. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Samantha approached. She hugged her mother, and I stayed there, watching how that family broke apart, knowing everything was my son's fault. After that conversation, Ethan's wife made a decision. She asked him for a divorce. She took Samantha out of the house, and they went to live with her mother. But before leaving, she did something I did not expect. She called me on the phone. Olivia, I need to ask for your forgiveness, for everything, for how I treated you, for how I made you feel. I did not know everything he was doing, but that does not excuse me. I saw how he treated you, and I did nothing. Her voice was broken. Sincere, and I am very sorry about your money, about your house, about everything. If I could turn back time, I would do it differently. I said nothing for several seconds, because I did not know if I could forgive her. I did not know if I wanted to. But then I thought about Samantha, and how her mother had chosen to protect her, and that was what mattered. Thank you for telling me. And thank you for getting Samantha out of there. I hung up, and I felt something inside me loosen. It was not complete forgiveness, but it was a start. 2 days later, Ethan was officially fired. Arthur called him to his office. He showed him all the evidence, the fake invoices, the invented contracts, the illegal transfers. Ethan tried to defend himself. He tried to lie, but there was no way to deny what was in front of him. You are fired, and tomorrow we are going to file a formal lawsuit for fraud and theft. We calculate you stole more than $90,000 from this company, and that is without counting what you stole from your mother. Ethan paled. Mr. Lawson, please, I can explain it. I can pay it back. Give me a chance. Arthur looked at him with contempt. There are no more chances. Gather your things and leave the building, now. Ethan left that office with a box in his hands, with his career destroyed, with his reputation ruined, and I saw him leave. From the window of my office on the 3rd floor, I saw him walk toward his car. I saw him get in. I saw him stay sitting there, without moving, for almost 20 minutes. And I did not feel pity. I did not feel guilt. I only felt injustice. But the worst for him had not yet arrived. A week later, the police arrived at his house with an arrest warrant. Corporate fraud, document forgery, money laundering, tax evasion. They handcuffed him in front of the neighbors, in front of the people who knew him, in front of everyone who once thought he was a successful man. Evelyn called me to tell me. They arrested him. He is going to spend the night at the station. Tomorrow he has a hearing. And what is going to happen? The lawyer says that with all the evidence we have, he is going to be declared guilty. Probably they will give him between 5 and 10 years in prison. 5 to 10 years. My son, in prison. That night I could not sleep, not because I felt bad for him, but because I did not know how to feel. On one hand, I knew he deserved to pay. On the other, he was still my son. The boy I had raised, the boy who once hugged me and told me he loved me. At what moment had he become this? At what moment had he stopped being my son and become a monster? I had no answers. The next day I went to the hearing, not because he asked me, but because I needed to see him. I needed to look him in the eyes and know if anything remained of the son I once had. I entered the room. I sat in the back. Ethan was at the front, with a defense lawyer who looked tired, with handcuffed hands, with a haggard face. When he saw me, our eyes met. And for a second I saw something that could have been regret, or maybe fear. But then he looked away, and I knew there was nothing to save. The judge read the charges: fraud, forgery, money laundering, one after another. Every word was a blow. The prosecutor presented the evidence, the documents, the photos, the bank records, everything I had found. Ethan's lawyer tried to argue it had been a mistake, that his client was under a lot of pressure, that he intended to return everything. But the judge did not believe him. "Mr. Ethan, you not only stole money, you stole your mother's dignity, you stole your employer's trust, and worse still, you involved your own minor daughter in your criminal activities." Ethan lowered his head. "I have no other option than to declare him guilty of all charges. The sentence will be dictated in 30 days, but I anticipate it will be between 6 and 8 years in prison. 6 to 8 years. Ethan collapsed. He began to cry. He asked for forgiveness. He begged for another chance. But it was too late. Too late. They took him out of the room handcuffed, and I stayed there sitting, feeling a huge void in my chest. Outside, Evelyn was waiting for me. She hugged me without saying anything. "Are you okay?" "I do not know." "It is normal. He is your son. No matter what he has done, he is still your son." I nodded, because she was right. But I also knew something else. I knew I had done the right thing, that I could not keep protecting someone who had destroyed me, who had destroyed others. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. It was from Ethan, from jail. I opened it with trembling hands. "Mom, I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. I robbed you. I used you. I treated you worse than an animal. And I have no excuse. I spent years blaming you for my failures, telling myself you were the reason my life was not perfect, that you were a burden, that you took money from me, time, freedom. But the truth is, I was the problem. I was always the problem. And now I am here, paying for what I did. And the only thing I can tell you is that I am sorry. I am sorry with every part of my being. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect you to visit me. I do not expect anything. I just want you to know that I finally understand what I lost. And it is not the money. It is not the job. It is you. I lost the only person who was always there, who always loved me unconditionally, who gave me everything without expecting anything in return. And now it is too late. I love you, Mom, even if I do not deserve to say it. Ethan. I folded the letter. I kept it in a drawer. And I cried. I cried for the son I lost, for the years I lost, for the life I lost. But I also cried of relief, because finally it was over. Finally I was free. Evelyn helped me recover my house. The lawyers forced Ethan to return it. I also recovered part of my money. Not all, but enough to live with dignity. Samantha came to visit me twice a week. She told me about school, about her dreams, about her life. And I listened to her, and I told her everything was going to be okay, because it was going to be. Her mother also came sometimes. We drank coffee, we talked, we were not friends. But we were no longer enemies, and that was enough. 6 months later, I went back to live in my house, in the house where I had spent 40 years with Robert. I cleaned every corner, I painted the walls, I bought new furniture, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. One afternoon, I was sitting in the garden drinking tea when I heard the front gate. It was Evelyn, with a bag in her hand. I brought cake. "Can I come in?" Of course. We sat together in the garden. We ate cake. We talked about everything and nothing. And at one moment, Evelyn looked at me and smiled. "Do you know what is ironic about all of this? What that 20 years ago you saved me without expecting anything in return. And now I saved you. And I do not expect anything in return either." I smiled. "That is how the world works when it works well." She nodded. "That is right." We stayed there sitting, watching the sun go down, feeling the soft breeze, knowing we had survived. And while I looked at the sky, I thought about everything that had happened. In the cold of that night, in the closed door, in the lies, in the thefts, in the pain. But I also thought about Evelyn, in Samantha, in justice, in the truth. And I knew that although I had lost much, I had also gained something. I had gained my dignity back. I had gained my freedom. I had gained my life. And that was more valuable than any amount of money, because in the end, the only thing that really matters is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and know you did the right thing, that you did not stay silent, that you did not let them destroy you, that you fought, and you won, and I had won, not with screams, not with violence, but with truth, with evidence, with silent justice, and that victory was mine, only mine, and no one, ever, could take it away from me.